I filmed this episode of the Sami Owens show with my friends Adam and Will, but unfortunately, I had some microphone issues that didn't pick up my audio, so I'm going to do the best I can with the audio.
What's going on, folks? We're back.
What's going on, guys? Good to be here. Good to chop it up.
My first question of the episode was how's life after ending UWL and AWL? Now, I am a big fan and supporter of mental health awareness, and I just want to make sure that people are changing for the better when they're leaving a huge part of their life behind. And here we'll dive right into that.
So, yeah, I'll go first there. Life has honestly been amazing. I ended UWO, I believe, in October of 2020. Um, and things have been just up. Actually, well, I can't say that completely. I did fall like into a very bad depression right after I ended UWO. It was more of a detox kind of thing because I was constantly on my phone 24/7 editing everywhere. I mean, outside, in the bathroom, in my house. Like I'm talking about almost 24/7 and it's not even a joke. So it's sort of like a detox thing that happened to me afterwards, but I ended up kind of getting back on my feet and enjoying real life. And if there's like, any advice I can give to anybody like that's still running that shit, like just get off of it. Life is like 10 times better. So yeah.
Yeah. I ended in August, September of 2021. Was gone for about a year, and then last summer tried to run it back. Um, the first time I left, I missed it a lot. I think a lot of my maturing as a human being came after I left the second time. So I think that the desire to want to come back never, or the desire to come back to stay gone rather, never really went away. I wanted to come back. I always knew that the end goal was to come back for a little bit. Um, and then I ended up leaving a second time. But since then, I've been able to focus on goals for a career. I've been able to focus on um, my education, bettering myself and maturing as a person, and forming healthy relationships with those around me. I feel like that's an extremely important part of who I am is the relationships I have with people in my life that are important to me. So life's been good. I would say I'm at, at my best right now, and I can attribute a lot of that to what I did learn from being in the IGWC, though.
That'll be a response.
When it comes to my mental health after UWL ended, it was it's a little hit or miss. For the most part, it's been really good. However, there have been some moments where it hasn't, but that's honestly to be expected. Just like before UWL even started for me.
Agreed.
Absolutely, and I do wanna say one thing, not to kinda just jump in the rabbit hole right away, but I do believe a lot of people in the IGWC are kind of like, how do I say? I'm saying trying to say this in the nicest way possible, but I think a lot of them are very messed up in the head solely because they're on their phones basically 24/7. And the funny part is, I actually just returned back to UWO like on my page, not my league, recently. Um, a lot of that happened. A lot of that had to do with just like me, just kind of like it was like more of like a nostalgia trip for me. Came back, talked to Will, I talked to Sammy. I mean, I talked to you guys outside of this regardless, but I catched up with some of my close friends that I used to run the league with, and I still notice like some people are still running the league, and I'm not really here to like just judge anybody, but I would love to always just give my advice to certain people because you could just tell some of these people are just like generally like messed up in the head, like the fact that they're still running leagues and shit like that in the IGWC. Like, if you don't have and like you have to be at least under 20 because if you're over 20, you're still running your league or you're running role play pages. It's like this is one of the biggest like cringe aspects of just like social media in general. I think a lot of people want to escape reality by being glued on their phones 24/7, and it's one of those things that's like easily like fixable. I think a lot of these people don't notice like the impact that social media and like pretending to be a superstar or pretending to be like a character or like a celebrity is just like absolutely detrimental to their mental health. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
still saddening me to see some of my close friends like still on this shit, but yeah, to each their own, right?
yeah. I'm
I
I'm
used to have a roleplay account where I was Kevin Owens like for UWL and maybe a couple other leagues, but I haven't used it since and since I stopped doing that. Like this was back in 2020 or so, maybe 2021. I don't remember exactly, but I only use that now for like looking down memory lane, and I don't use it for anything else really.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where I find myself going back and looking down memory lane, but um, leaving is for the better. I'm very much so to each their own person. I feel like different strokes for different folks. All those cliche sayings. Um, I'm very much one of those people that if you have passion for it, if it makes you happy, go out and do it. But um, for me, it was just I'm very much so a person who doesn't surround myself around toxicity. And there was so much toxicity in the community in 2022. My second run, just so much toxicity that it never felt right when I came back. Like I knew that I was at the peak of my abilities when I came back, and there was a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish that I didn't accomplish my first time around, that I never got to accomplish the second time around because I was out of it by the time um, some things happened behind the scenes that just drove me away from it. I appreciate all the memories. It was a good chunk of my affirmative years, but um, it's just something that is not sustainable for personal success, in my opinion. Like if you have a goal, if you have a dream as a person for a career, go out and do that. I get wanting to kind of escape the reality, but your reality will be so much better if you go out and achieve.
Absolutely, and I also don't want to like I know what I just said like before was just like extremely negative. I don't want it to sound all that bad. We had a lot of great memories in UWO, and I think without UWO, I wouldn't meet like great people like Will and Sami Owens that I could like legit talk to outside of this, and that I could legit talk to in real life if they ever came to New York or vice versa. So it wasn't all that bad. Um, I am especially proud of Will though because Will was like one of those people that like kind of try to come back and stuff like that. I think I did give him advice because I'm much older than Will, and Will's like, Will, you're like 19 or 20, 21.
In that, yeah, 18, 19.
Okay, so yeah,
To
so
give,
he's like
to give
around
an
that
age
age, like
range, to give an age
yeah,
range for people who are in my boat.
yeah, yeah. So Will was like one of those people like you could tell like Will was like I talked to Will like outside of this. He was, he's very like he was like an athlete, or not a was an athlete. He is an athlete. So, him doing like all this shit was just like, it was one of those things. Like I feel like I could help him and like to try to talk him out of it. Um, but yeah, like I said, it wasn't all that bad. But at the end of the day, it was like something like me and Will, we kind of had me, Will, Bilal as well, who was Kurt Hawkins in UWL. We all kind of just had like the same mindset in life, and that was just to just try to get out of this place. And it was very toxic at times, like Will said. And I think there's like one of those like things that I don't think I will ever forget in life. Like
Yeah,
I'll always remember UWO. I'll always remember like the league part, the IGWC. It was just like that's like one of those things that would just never leave my mind.
I can achieve a lot of my professionalism and a lot of my work ethic and all that to running a league because it takes a high level of professionalism and it takes a high work ethic. It takes a high drive and determination to be able to be successful. There's a lot of people who come into the community wanting to start a league having a vision that never really get to carry out that vision or never really see that success because they don't have that determination and work ethic. The people who lasted for multiple years and found success and have the work to show for it are the people who sustained a high work ethic. And I can attribute a lot of that to what I want to do now as a career and what I did when I ran AWL. That it has a lot to do with professionalism and work ethic.
Since we were on the topic of memory lane, I decided to ask them what their favorite moment was from UWL, and it could be from any point in time.
I'll let Adam go first.
My favorite UWL memory, I believe, will I think always be WrestleMania or UWL Mania. I believe the third one. Um, or kind of just like it's not really like a specific moment. It's more of like a build up. I guess my favorite moment would definitely be like when Kurt Hawkins probably won the Royal Rumble. I feel like that was like such a shocking moment. Um, Not a lot of people know like that moment was legit. And it wasn't planned. It was just like a complete shoot. Kurt and I, we weren't talking. We weren't on good terms. I actually fired him from my league. We had some like it was it was uh it was just like some misunderstandings. But we weren't talking. Kurt just randomly hit me up one day and said like, cause the Rumble, my UWL Rumble was like an open invitational. So he texted me he wanted to be in the Rumble, and I said okay. I did not expect him to win the Rumble. And a lot of my plans just kind of had to change because um there's certain superstars that you think will win, and then they ended up just getting targeted. Like I believe AJ Styles was defending the EWO Championship, and then everyone just jumped on him. It was a complete mismatch, and then Hawkins just ended up winning the the title. It was one of the craziest. I think it was my favorite moment of all time in UWO. Just because how special it was and how genuine it was.
Before I give my moment, I want to kind of touch on what Adam was saying. Like, so at that point, UWL Rumble, me and Adam were not close at that point yet. We hadn't reached our level of friendship then. So I mean, I was a, for lack of a better term, an innocent bystander, somebody without a dog in a fight, and the level of go back to it, the level of professionalism and the work ethic Adam was at that I think it was what 2 weekends, Adam, that the show ran across.
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah,
was a long.
the 2 weekends that it took to produce that show in full just shows what set Adam apart from the rest of the league landscape is that you didn't see anybody else having a show thoroughly through and through as hyped as that one was, and that's what I always expected. Um, but I was gonna say the Rumble, but for differentiality, I'm going to give a time period um, from basically the build up to UWO Mania 3. Um, as someone in the community who enjoyed storytelling above all, the storytelling that build up gave was top notch. And as someone who prided themselves as a league owner on making best possible stories, it was a a wealth of idea and inspiration for me to come up with things because of the reception I saw that show and that build up got. Because a lot of times in the community, you think about the people we work with, a lot of times we work so hard as league owners for the build up, and the build up would go unnoticed because the superstars and the outsiders are geared up for the mat for the payoff. So seeing the build up perspective really gave me an idea and gave me an inspiration of how to captivate and capture people's attention spans on the build up.
The UWO Royal Rumble in 2020 was a truly historic event, and I absolutely loved every second of it.
No, you're
Yeah.
good. I can't hear you.
appreciate the gesture, Will. I think we all worked very hard for it. These are some of the things like obviously we didn't get paid to run these pages, and we don't get paid to edit or anything like that. It's just more of like a
Unfortunately,
fantasy thing. Dude, if we got paid, that would be amazing. But yeah,
I'd still be doing it.
facts. But no, I do appreciate the shout out. And to your credit as well. I mean, I feel like out of everybody besides like Sami Owens, because I knew Sami Owens, I think the second day that I started the league. But besides Sami Owens, I think Will was like probably like the most respectful person, which I appreciated a lot. And I know I gave you my shout outs in like the last stream, but I still appreciate that, man, because there were not a lot of genuine people in the IGWC. I think a lot of them were just like clout chasers. They would DM me and just like try to kiss my ass and stuff. But when you know someone is genuine and like really respect your work, and you could tell because you know a lot of like you know a lot of the history of UWO and stuff like that. Someone that like legit, genuine, like genuinely just like respects your work, respects you. Um, it was like one of those things, where I never looked down upon like anyone, not you, not anyone. I kind of treated everybody just like as equals. So I really respected the dynamic between that. I think that just it's like a testament to like our friendship, why our friendship is still standing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in loyalty and respect, and I think the two biggest qualities a person can have is being loyal and being respectful. And I'm a big believer that if you have those two things, that not only will you be liked, but you will be respected as well. If you give respect, you get respect. If you're loyal, people will be loyal to you. And there were a lot of disrespectful people in the IGWC, a lot of unloyal people in the IGWC, but that's just how it is. And I think um, being someone who had a lot of the same interests as Adam when it came to storytelling and when it came to the build up, I feel like that. I mean, just on a league level, that's why I clicked, and then loyalty and respect is why I clicked on a personal level. But I feel like it was just the perfect storm of what we both valued as people and as league owners.
And just to add on as well, like another like big reason why I really respected Will is because um outside of like the league, he knows like a lot about WWE. Just like kind of like on my mindset, he pays attention to a lot of the storylines. We kind of just have like a lot of the same beliefs like in WWE. And that was just like another reason why we connected is because he was like very like smart. And I feel like one day if we end up like running a real show together, a real creative show together, I feel like we would cook. And I feel like we would do better than most like real life WWE creative members for sure, 100%.
Definitely.
If you guys ever start a wrestling company, I am definitely here for that because I want to make my in-ring debut sometime.
Actually, you are.
Midwest All Star Wrestling hosted a show during the county fair back in July, and I contacted them trying to get a hold of them to see if I could be like an extra or help set up the ring or just anything. They messaged me back about a week later saying, "Hey, we're not looking for any extras. However, we if you do want to come help set up the ring, that'd be great." But I really wanted to do it, but I couldn't, mainly because it was like 98 degrees outside, and there's like no building for the show to take place in.
Hey, if that's your passion, bro, never stop anything, like especially the weather from like stopping you from achieving your dreams, bro. I think you should do it. I think if that's your passion and you want to be a wrestler, bro, you want to just be someone that helps the ring and just like slowly build your way up, bro, you should definitely go all in, bro.
There is a wrestling company based in Minnesota called First Wrestling, and I have honestly thought about contacting them and just trying to get like a training session or anything like that because they've had so many big stars show up there. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say big, but there's like a Joey Janela um, and many other well-known wrestlers that have actually worked there, and that would honestly be like a great first step to start my path to being a wrestler. I mean, I've been dreaming about being a wrestler since I was like really young, so I might have to actually message them and try to get something.
I believe in you, bro, and I will support you for real. If that's like I said, if that's your dream and your passion, bro, you should definitely go all in for sure.
So
Definitely.
my favorite UWO memory, it's more like a span of time. I fought Andrade for the UWO Universal Championship on an episode of Raw where I won. And then everyone made a huge deal about it. There was a quote unquote documentary on the UWO page, and I even had my own custom UWO Universal Championship. In fact, I was one of the only other people to have a custom championship. The other person, Shelton Benjamin, but I will get more into detail with that later one.
That was a great moment. Actually, I actually just remember that now. I remember that moment. That was like when everybody hated Andrade. He was just like one of those like people that no one could stand. I think he was like he was so controversial, and then you just came in and just like whooped his ass. It was like one of the like it was like I think it was like one of the biggest moments that year. So yeah, that's like yeah, that just brought back a lot of memories, dude.
I would definitely put that one in like my top 5 moments of all time in UWL, like as part of my career. That would also include beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania. Well, I'm sorry, UWL Mania. Uh, Beating AJ Styles for the UWL Championship. There is also me being SmackDown GM. But another big moment that I don't want to forget to mention, it was Triple H versus Kevin Owens, which I actually love that because I got to work with Adam directly for that. And not many people could actually say that they've done that. I personally believe that match between us strengthened our bond, like even more than it already was at.
Yeah, that was a great moment as well. I think was the match scripted? I can't remember. Was it scripted or was it like a voting match?
The original plan was for
Yes.
me to lose that match in a scripted match,
Oh, really?
which would force me into retirement and out of UWL
Uh,
completely. But I don't remember who was supposed to fight Triple H to get my job back. But those plans were scrapped in favor of a voting match to see who was better.
that 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 custom Universal Championship was also really great. Like that was such a that was a nice settle as well. Those were good times. Those were like before UWO was like popular. We were just getting there too. It was those were good times.
Like I mentioned earlier, Shelton also had a custom championship. It was just a picture of his face on the UWL championship, but trust me, I had a special treatment in this case.
Oh yeah, before I forget, shout out to Shelton. Yeah, this guy has never won the UWO championship, and yeah, he's just always gonna be very mediocre.
He may not have won the UWO championship, but he was a pleasure to work with.
For sure, credit for sure, credit where it's due. For sure, for sure. I still see him on Instagram and stuff like that, and I usually text him. I usually send him some very racist posts, but yeah, shout out Shelton. Shout out Shelton. He's a good kid. I didn't realize how young he was. I don't think he wants me to talk about it, but he was very young during UWO. He kind of lied about everything. It was very interesting.
Now I want to know how old he was.
Bro, you gotta hit him up.
I'm texting you right now.
My next question was about the return of a certain egotistical, unprofessional person who unfortunately made his return at Survivor Series. But here are their thoughts on it.
Adam, you
All
want to?
right. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, Will, that's crazy, right? So a possible CM Punk return. All right, so we are about 3 days away from Survivor Series. Um, it's kind of yes, it's kind of a weird situation because we already know Randy Orton's returning, and I'm very excited for that. I've taken Randy Orton for granted. And after 500 and whatever days it is, I missed him so much, dude. Like Randy Orton is truly gonna go down as one of the greatest of all time. The dude's a legend. I think he's a I think he's probably like top five in my opinion. Um and his work ethic is just like also amazing. I think he's like in his 40s, like late 40s maybe. I think. Um and so the fact that they announced his return on Raw kind of makes me think they're kind of baiting us. I feel like that was kind of like a it was like one of those situations where who knows if WWE even signed CM Punk? Because why would they announce Randy Orton's return at that Raw? It makes me think that they did it because they don't want fans to be disappointed about Punk if he doesn't end up showing up. But they do have, I believe, 17K seats. So I think they're like 60 tickets away from being sold out or something like that. And I think they're gonna beat WrestleMania 22, the record for WrestleMania 22, which was in Chicago, which is insane. So it's kind of a weird situation. I don't know if Punk is showing up. I generally do not know if Punk is showing up. I think Fightful just said that WWE hasn't changed their stance on CM Punk, which means that they don't really want him. But also doesn't make sense because Nakamura has this storyline where he's kind of calling out somebody, and it's like, who else can it be besides CM Punk, right? I made some
Shane
very weird,
McMahon.
dude. I don't know. I made some very weird picks saying that it was like Brock Lesnar or even Okada. I know those like very weird picks, but I do think now that it 100% has to be CM Punk. Like there's no way it's not CM Punk unless the storyline runs past Survivor Series. Then maybe it's somebody else. But I think if Nakamura ends up showing up on Survivor Series, like just like a random, like he just randomly shows up, he goes in the ring and he starts calling out somebody, CM Punk is 100% coming. And the fact that WWE is opening up all these seats in Chicago also makes me think Punk is coming. And WWE is smart enough. I don't think they're that dumb to kind of fuck up a moment like this. Obviously, Punk wants back in WWE. WWE is the only one that's holding back the return, right? Punk wants back. So Triple H and everybody has to make a decision. Just let the grudges go and just have this guy come back for the fans and just for business in general. I think business is gonna be booming if Punk comes back. So, um, I'm a Punk guy. I've always been a Punk guy. I believe in Punk, and Punk coming back to WWE is I think gonna only benefit WWE and Punk in the long run for sure. So I'm excited for Survivor Series, and I'm also just excited in general for Randy Orton.
Yeah. Um, I I don't think he comes back on uh Saturday, but I do think he comes back at the Rumble. Um, I think I think that WWE is the only entity that will be able to hold CM Punk's ego in check, and I think that they're, like Adam said, they're going to be willing to put the grudges aside and make something work for the betterment of the business. But I don't think it happens yet. I think they're giving us Randy Orton, as Adam said, to hold us over, and then at the Rumble it'll be Punk. Um, but I think it's good for wrestling when Punk's on TV. I just don't know if it's sustainable long term that they're able to keep him happy and keep him quiet because that's his biggest vice is that he opens his mouth. Um, but I think they'll be able to make it work. I think the people in power in WWE are not going to be pushed over, and I think that it's best for everyone when he's on TV.
I have a very unpopular opinion. When I filmed this, I didn't want him to return, and now that he's back, I just want him gone already. That's how much I can't stand him.
Oh wow, what a heel turn.
This man has the biggest ego out of any person on the planet. He didn't get his way back in 2014, and he took his ball and went home. Ronda Rousey also has a massive ego. She quit WWE as well, and now she's in Ring of Honor, which I don't think they'll even handle her ego. And AEW couldn't even handle CM Punk's ego. So this isn't going to work out for WWE like at all.
But don't you think, a lot of wrestlers have egos in general? I think it's just a business in general. But I think, especially WWE, I think they look past the egos. I think it's just business number one. And I think Punk's return only benefits WWE, So that's just kind of my counter argument on it.
Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people in the wrestling world that have egos. Like, yeah, I'm sure every wrestler at some point has had an ego. But some people don't know when to quit and don't know when to put their ego aside for the betterment of their own career and for the company's future. It didn't work out for him previously in WWE, it didn't work out for him in AEW. This is going to end just as bad as those other times.
As am I.
The next topic is about the year 2020. Now, that was a really rough year for so many people, myself included, but I wanted to know how the pandemic affected them, like physically, but most importantly, on the mental aspect of life.
Right. So, the pandemic was I think it was a very weird time because it was like the first time in my life where I really just stayed home for months on end. Like I'm talking about like I didn't even go to the deli. The deli or the bodega. The deli is a block away from me. I'm talking about I did not even go outside to go to the deli, which is a block away from me. So it was a very weird time. And I think in my life I'm always gonna remember the pandemic as just me running UWO because that's all I was doing. I was just running UWO. I was editing 24/7, and I was like e-dating at the time also, which I'm very ashamed of. But yeah, it was a very weird time. But 2020 was also I did like a lot of WWE's shows in 2020. I loved the whole Messiah set thing. I love Jules Run as WWE champion. I love the whole Extreme Rules thing, the Eye for the Eye. I love SummerSlam. I love when Roman returned. I love the whole Dom versus Messiah storyline. It was cool. I think 2021 was just kind of like a really bad year for me personally. Um, I ended UWL that year, which was a blessing in disguise. But at that time, I didn't really know how it was gonna affect me. Obviously, as I said earlier, it affected me in a really bad way because like it was just like this detox that I had to go through. You go from your phone 24/7 to just seeing the sunlight, and it was just very odd, and it was just in the long run, like look where I am now. I'm so happy with my life. Obviously things could be better, but like, at the end of the day, I'm very grateful for everything. I'm grateful for all my friends, my family. I'm grateful for my health. Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so well, I'm in this phone call with two of my closest friends that I met in the IGWC. So I'm thankful for you guys. But yeah, the pandemic was a tough time for me on a personal level. But I'm glad I came out of it much better.
Yeah. My run had just started when the pandemic hit, so um, I was I was lucky to have a bunch of people who had a lot of time on their hands. Um, I was blessed in that sense. Um, so it gave me a decent platform to stand on, but um, the pandemic was a struggle for a lot of people because that it, affected or not, it was a dark time. A lot of loss of life, a lot of um, financial struggles for a bunch of people, but overall, it gave me it opened the door for me to have the platform I did in the community, which, like I said earlier, it helped me grow as a person. So I'm thankful to be able to say that um, trying to word this correctly. I'm thankful to have been able to build myself as a person over that time, so that when we went back to normal and went back to everyday life, we're outside every day. Um, I'm glad that that personal growth had been there. Being an athlete during that time, um, it was tough because everything shut down. A lot of the work that you needed to get in, that you would usually get in with your teams or with your trainers, it was a lot harder to get in. Um, so that was my biggest struggle, was personally trying to find that balance. So a lot of the stuff I have to do would be at home in my own time, and it was the same situation with a lot of my teammates and all that, and it was tough. I saw a lot of people struggle with that, but overall, um, it was a period of personal growth, which no matter how positive or negative it is, I can always respect being able to grow as a person. That's what I'm always striving to do.
And to add on as well to Will's, um, I think in the future, we're gonna look back at the pandemic. Me on a personal level, I'm gonna look back at the pandemic and just remember, you know, guys like Will, guys like Sami Owens, guys like Bilal, guys like Shelton, all my friends from UWL. Like I'm always gonna remember that time period, and I'm always gonna associate UWL, with you guys. So it's like one of those things where it's like kind of just um it's gonna be there forever. It's one of those things that's gonna be there forever. Like I'll look back at the pandemic and I'll be like, dude, I really spent my time during the pandemic on the IGWC, and it helped me a lot. I'm not gonna sit here and say it was a bad thing. It helped me a lot, like really, really a lot. And I could look at another side and just be like, okay, what if I wasn't, doing UWL? I probably would have been outside during the pandemic, but obviously we were very limited. Like Will said, I couldn't even go to the gym. I had to quit my boxing gym as well. Just like Will was affected, so was I. So it was a tough time for everybody. But as he said, I think we grew a lot. Some people obviously they were bored and started um creating pronouns, but I was doing things for God for sure.
I spent nearly 4 minutes just ranting about how my 2020 was bad when I probably could have summed it up like to be a lot shorter than it was. But anyway, I graduated during the pandemic and I absolutely hated it because the last few months of school I had to do online learning, which I am more of a hands-on kind of person. I love doing projects like along with my classmates and not just looking at a computer screen just trying to complete like a homework assignment or something like that. But anyway, we graduated in May of 2020, and sometime in June we had a Footloose themed prom. Which, if you've seen the movie Footloose, you would probably know what I'm getting at. Like, we were all tested, and none of us tested positive, so that's good. Uh, then, like, the next few months, I was getting all geared up for college, which I probably should have either waited or not gone at all, because I was miserable. I was an hour and a half away from my family, and yeah, I did get to go visit them like every other weekend or something like that, like every holiday. But I was just miserable during my entire time in college. Like, it was not for me. And plus, the pandemic didn't really help because we had to do everything online. And I, I could not stand the Zoom meetings we had to do. And that's actually quite funny because now I have a podcast where I get to talk with people, but this is actually fun to do. And like my roommates, I'm not going to get into that. That is for another video entirely. But I had the courage to talk to my mom in March because leading up to that, I felt like I was going to let her down and let other people down if I didn't finish college entirely. But I told her that I didn't want to stay in college because I was just miserable. But then she told me, which is something I probably should have taken into account the first time, that she was only focused about my happiness, and if I wasn't enjoying it, I could come home anytime I wanted. But yeah, I was in a really dark place at the time, and thankfully I had Adam to help me out there. Well, I guess it really did take me 4 minutes to do this. But anyway, if you're still watching up to this point, uh, follow me on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and keep watching to the end of the episode. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, you were in a rough time, dude. Yeah, I remember that. I think that was around the same time that I was just like probably like enjoying life. So it kind of just goes to show you that um, things always get better, man. But um, obviously college wasn't for you. But it seems like you're doing much better now, so that matters. Always take like those dark times as kind of like a lesson, you know.
My next question was for Will specifically, and it was, what did UWO mean to him? Because there's a lot of people in this community that are probably watching right now who had a huge impact from UWL, and I was curious to know what his story was.
Um, the first thing that comes to mind is definitely an inspiration. Um, as the league, or so the league, the model of the league, the way Adam ran it, the way his show structure was, the way he would promote, that was my vision. Um, that was the structure I wanted to have things. So from a very early time, being able to observe all that, what kind of inspired and kind of helped shape the way I um, planned and went about things. Um, but being one of the only other leagues that I really followed that focused heavy on storytelling and build up, it was just an inspiration to be able to um, want to come up and want to continue. Um, creating new stories. So it was an inspiration. It was something that I look back on frequently and um, enjoy because it was a highlight of like just being a fan of other leagues in the IGWC was a highlight of my experience during the pandemic. But yeah, it was an inspiration. It was um, something I look back on fondly, and it ultimately, most importantly, it helped build a friendship. Um, because without UWL, without AWO, without anything like that, um, a lot of friendships, including mine and Adam's, would have been formed.
My next question was for both Adam and Will, but how has UWL and AWL respectively affected their online friendships with other people? Because sometimes they can build friendships, sometimes they could ruin friendships.
Yeah, so I think I think I've met a lot of great people as I said previously. I think also I actually forgot about a lot of my real friends in real life, which is kind of funny because those were the people that obviously mattered to me the most. I forgot about a lot of them, dude, and I stopped talk because I believe that was around the time where I graduated high school. So I stopped talking to a lot of them, and I think I just started putting a lot of my online relationships over my real friends in real life, which was, you know, I think it was a bad thing because obviously, it's like, online relationships, they're not really gonna last forever. You really don't. I'm not saying it's impossible, but majority of the time they don't really last forever. Your real friends in real life are more important. So, that's a lesson to anybody, dude. Just always put your real friends first. This online shit, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If we get hit with a EMP from China, we're doomed. So yeah, I think but I'm definitely glad. I also met a lot of great people. So there's just always a good and a bad.
Yeah. Overall, I met a lot of good people. I met a lot of bad people. Um, just the same as in real life. Um, but having having been able to meet a lot of people overall just is extremely positive. Um, there there was a lot of toxicity with that. I think everybody who was in the community knows that. I think everybody is guilty in their own way of being a little toxic, but um, I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes. Um, but the it's created a lot of good friendships as we have already touched on. Like myself and Adam, um, a bunch of other people I've met. But like Adam said, there's nothing better than being able to trust somebody and have that loyalty and respect, like we talked about earlier. So um, the IGWC um, helped build a lot of solid friendships and a lot of people that I can look back on when I'm older and say that they were there for me and that I was there for them.
It's time to get a little controversial, which is a specialty around the IGWC, but who was the worst person that you've ever worked with?
Mm, let me think about this. Adam, go ahead.
Dude, there were a lot of shit. There were a lot of toxic people. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I can't even think of somebody on the top of my head. Um, I'm just, there's not a specific person, but there's a specific group of people. Um, if you guys remember when the pandemic started, cancel culture, I think cancel culture just kind of blew up. I think people were so fucking bored and out of their mind that they just stayed home and started canceling people because they had nothing better to do. Um, I think those types of people and you know those just like very sick, weird, twisted people that would just judge you and cancel you over anything small. There were so many of them in the IGWC. Like they were the worst kind of people. And the worst part about them was that they were pretending to be girls when they were guys in real life. Or they were pretending to be straight when they were gay in real life. And almost nothing wrong with being gay. I mean, come on. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're just like projecting all the fucking time in the IGWC and you're constantly blaming and trying to cancel people for having an opinion, like I could post something bad about Sasha Banks. I could say something bad about Sasha Banks, and then I would have a bunch of people hit me up saying that I'm racist because I'm racist for criticizing a black wrestler. So yeah, those people are just like the worst types of people. I think a lot of people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna agree with Adam. But I do have one person, and I'm not gonna name names, but
Dang.
they were notorious. And Adam, I think you'll remember them. They were notorious for complaining and leaving and quitting after losses, and then coming back to the league. I talked about it on an Instagram live I had a couple weeks ago, but there was and on multiple occasions I had hired them when I would put out a roster search. I would hire them, right. I would book them because they were decent, like decent at best. But I would book them into stories. And then they would write their promo, and their promo would be 14 parts, in which 11 of those parts are just repetitive and the same. So, as a league owner, when I see that, once you repeat it for the third time, I stop reading. And then so they would lose the match or whatever, and then they would come to me and they would be like, "Why did I lose?" And I'd tell them why they lost. They didn't like it, they'd quit, and then go publicly try to talk shit about me. I mean, I'm fine with that. I've had my fair share of people talk shit about me. And then what always got me though is that they would try to come back. Um, and I would let them back in. I'm a gracious person. I believe in second chances. Um, and then it was just a cycle. And eventually, after the second or third time, I said, "All right, you're done." Um, so they tried to publicly go, and like Adam said, tried to cancel me, and I shut that shut that shit down. Um, but apologies for the language. I know it's gonna cause
No
you some
need to
more editing,
apologize.
um, but yeah, that
That
that is
that's
probably
that's
the
another thing. That's another thing. Sorry to interrupt you. Well, I just want to interject myself and say, like, as a scripted league owner too, like, dude, I would not be able to handle all those people that just complained constantly and then got mad when they lost. Like, that was one of the biggest things about me, like always being against scripted leagues. Like, I don't want to deal with people like that, bro. So hats off to you for dealing with people like that.
That's why UWL NXT didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. It
yeah, for
takes a
sure.
special kind of
I
person.
there Yeah, man, and those people also just don't respect your time. They don't realize how much work you put behind the scenes, and I think that also helped me a lot in perspective of just life in general. Like all these people online and social media that actually put in real work behind the scenes. Like you always want to give them credit, man. So for sure, that's yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I always noticed um, was that when you would try to say that, like that exact sentiment, how much work we put in, how much we do to make shit happen. Um, they would always be like, "Well, you don't know how much time I spent on that promo. Um, you know how much time I spent editing that." I said, and I always put this bluntly, and I said it sounds bad, but it's true. I said the time that you spend making your promo, making your edit for the promo, promoting your promo. I said, I'm spending doing the same thing as a sort. I'm putting out quality every time. I'm putting out quality to the people. I'm putting out quality for myself. I'm putting out quality for in the grand scheme of things. I'm not coming out here laying an egg. When you lay an egg on your promo, the result that you get is what you gave me. It's the same with me. When I put out a bad show, I got bad reaction. When I put out a good show, I get good reaction. What you put in is what you get out. So it's the same. We're the same. When you think you had better work than what you did and you didn't get rewarded for it, that's just it you move on. It took patience. Um, I think going scripted was a good decision though, because that's more my field, and it sounds bad, but you can control more when you go scripted. Um, I also said this on a live video a couple weeks ago. When you are in voting, you control less, and I'm a control freak. I like having a little bit more control. Now, obviously, um, I rewarded those who deserved it. I wasn't out here fully scripting things. Like I had an idea of who was probably going to win, but I never predetermined anything. Um, but yeah, it takes a special kind of patience. Not everybody has it. Not everybody is that personality. There's nothing wrong with that.
When I ran UWL NXT as William Regal, I pushed the people who were more active and had the passion for it. Like, I pushed a new version of the Nexus, which included, uh, I believe, Justin Gabriel, Bray Wyatt, and Wade Barrett. And I know that Wade Barrett and Bray Wyatt were the more active of the trio, so I didn't really push Justin Gabriel as much. Well, that's if I actually had Justin Gabriel. Like, this was years ago, so I don't quite remember who the final member was. But Wade Barrett and Bray Wyatt had the passion for it, and they got their promos done, and they made sure to protect their spot by actually being loyal to my time, the effort that was put in by not just me but also Adam, and they actually wanted to do this. But other people were a little hit or miss. But unfortunately, UWL NXT didn't last very long. So scripted leagues were not really the way to go for UWL, and we pretty much just stuck to like voting leagues, except for like the occasional match or segment.
Yeah, I rewarded activity, and there were three criteria. First and foremost, how your promos were, skill, how skilled you were. Second, how active you were, and three, how um, how easy you were to work with. I always told myself I would push the easy to work with, hardworking person over the lazy, talented person.
We talked about UWL quite a bit, but let's talk about the other reason we're here. What is your favorite memory of AWL?
Um, let's see. Let me go to my page because I feel like there's a couple that I could look at. The obvious ones come to mind. Slammiversary with ECW. Um, that that build up. was very special to me. Um, then you have moments like UW or UW AWO Mania 2. Uh, I really enjoyed, personal favorite of mine, having NXT UK for a little bit. We made the decision to end it, but in my opinion, it was something that if I had more time on my hands at that moment, it could have been something. Um, but I think overall, and I'm scrolling through it now, my favorite AWL memory was early on in my company's history. It was early NXT. Um, the Kevin Lee Abyss era of NXT. Kind of when I thought my creative power was at its best, when I had two stars who cared more than no, I don't want to say anybody, but more than a lot of people that I've had the pleasure to work with. Abyss and Kevin Lee were just dedicated. Um, every week they'd be there, and
Abyss
they
was
put in work.
one of those legends I actually remember. He was like one of those like
Yeah,
he's been in the league game for like ever since I started like back in 2017. He was always there.
yeah, he's a workhorse.
Whatever happened to that guy, bro?
He's still around.
Is he?
Oh my
Yeah, I
god.
see him all the time.
Oh shit.
Um, Another moment that I really like, and it's A1 and A B, or it's 1A 1B. AWL SummerSlam, Zack Ryder versus Roman Reigns unification match, winner take all. I'm trying to see, the votes are messed up because it's like comments and all that got deleted because people got shut down. But it's my highest voting match ever. I think it was like 420 something, like four. It was in the 400s. I'm almost certain. But that is probably a 1A 1B, favorite voting match, favorite scripted moment. But back to the Kevin Lee and Abyss, they were just two of my most dedicated. Um, and that build up, it was a long feud, probably my favorite feud I've ever scripted, besides the ECW stuff. Um, but I have such fond memories of that, and I think that helped me grow and that helped me figure out myself as a league owner more than anything.
Before we go to the next question, I'm sorry. Um, I just want to say one of the AWO matches that I remember was I believe it was Roddy versus Austin Theory at
Yep,
at at, at one of your WrestleManias. I remember that because that was like shortly after I
Mania
quit.
too.
Yeah, sure. It was like shortly after I quit UWO. So you were popping at that time too, dude. You were popping right
That
after
was
that.
my peak. That was definitely my
Yeah,
peak.
that was really good. I remember that like because I was on Instagram at that time that after I ended at UWO, so I would be on Instagram here and there. But I do remember seeing you post that match. It was crazy.
Yeah,
I
right
think
after
that
that.
Roderick Strong was the same Roddy that I got eliminated by Hawkins at
I
UWO Royal Rumble.
Yeah, it was. It was actually.
Yeah, that was
I
like
had him for a
insane.
little bit. He
Who would
his
you say
story
were
was
your
kind
like
of
your
cool.
who were like your most loyal members? I know one of them is definitely Zack Ryder. That Ryder dude was always there.
Um,
Who were like you would
Ryder.
say like your top 5 loyal members?
Okay, top five. Uh, Obviously the four. Uh, Austin Theory, Zack Ryder, Abyss, Kevin Lee, and then there's definitely more than five. So whoever I get. Okay, the fifth, and I think the most loyal over everybody, is the. He was there from day zero. Um,
Those
and when this comes around,
your top superstars are always cool to me as well. So I appreciate that.
yeah.
Very cool.
Um, I think
Shout
we
out
built.
Tommy.
I think we built that same respect. Like they know that I had a lot of respect for you. They had a lot of respect for you. You actually worked with the Miz for a little bit, um, as
Yeah,
well.
I did. I wish we ended up doing a show together. I know we talk about that a lot, but that would have been kind of cool. I think
Yeah,
I just
that's
lost a
when I,
lot of passion towards the end. Like I lost a lot of
yeah,
passion towards the end, and that's when you started blowing up a lot. You know.
yeah. Do you want to get into that? Like what we had spoken about?
I mean, we could, but I just hate that. You know, at that time, like when we were talking about it, I just lost like so much passion. Like I just ended up giving up. You know.
Yeah, we had wanted to do something, and it just didn't work out. Uh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Even though we've talked about some controversial stuff, do you have any storylines that you absolutely regret doing?
Oh, that's a
Adam,
good
go
one.
ahead. I need time to think.
Shit. Um, I mean, I do remember doing some like some like I don't know. It was like I think I did like a sex celebration or something like that. But I don't know. But I think I think I do regret doing. I'd probably say the terrorist angle with Muhammad Hassan. I think I do regret that. Not because of the storyline. Hear me out. I regret it solely because I put a lot in for that guy in specific, but he ended up being like a dickhead. That specific guy in general. I know the storyline was very controversial, and being a controversial league, um, I have no regrets for that storyline in general, but I do regret just um, putting like everything on the line just for that guy in general. I think he was gonna get like a huge push, but yeah, I think I just regret basically like everything from that time period of that storyline and specifically that person.
Um, I'm looking back through my account. My memory is fleeting. There, I, there, I was very thorough with the storylines I would select. So there's not one specific like match, or there isn't one specific storyline where I'm kind of regretting it. However, um, the so fun fact, AWL Mania 2, the women's title match. Um, it was three of my top female superstars. It was Carmella, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks. Carmella was actually like the um, the top female in my league's history.
Was it the same Carmella in UWO? Was it that J person?
No, Jay was my voting. Um, I had
Okay, okay.
Candy from my scripted one. But let's see. That match was marred in controversy at the end. Charlotte got pissed off because she lost, I believe. Um, my memory is still. Um, but that result was marred in controversy. There was a big thing in the group chat. I'm trying to remember the conversation, but there was a lot of controversy
Wait,
surrounding it. At
weren't
least
they trying to cancel you at that time? There was like some Instagram posts about you. Was it that specific storyline?
it might have been actually. I don't.
I do remember that, I think. 'Cause I remember it was like a big thing and then you kind of just like took a break or something like that.
Oh no,
For
that was
like
at
2
the
days
end.
or
That was when I ended up leaving. This
Oh,
is
okay.
a couple months before, but yeah, no, it was a big thing in the group chat. They were arguing about the decision, um, and me and my creative team who had kind of made the decision. Chad Gable was on that team. ECW The Shield was on that
You
team at the
always
time.
did you always have like a creative team?
Not always. When I got in deeper than I figured I needed to be with the storylines, when I got really storyline driven, that's when I had it. Um,
Mhm.
so that moment I really regret because I knew the egos in that match were there. Like it was a lot of egos, a lot of fragile, uh, fragile egos in that. So I do, looking back on it, I do kind of regret that match. But the storyline I liked.
All right, let's go back to the Muhammad Hassan topic. But didn't he have a faction with Seth Rollins and Baron Corbin? Like, I remember them working together at some point, but I didn't remember if it was like a full blown faction or why they joined forces. But that is something I remember.
Yes, yes, they did. I forgot the name of it. A lot of these memories just like faded away. I think Will can relate.
Yeah, definitely. I would probably remember some of your moments better than I do my own.
Dude, I could barely remember half of it now.
Alright, so maybe like four people would find this funny, but I did
I don't
a
remember that. I do
fake
remember that
tweet
too.
for their
Yeah.
faction, and it was the dumbest thing ever because they got so mad about it.
I remember that, dude. A lot of people hated that era of UWO, and I think I got a lot of criticism for it as well, saying that it was like the worst ever of UWO. I guess
It was
specifically like having like the Indians like dominate. UWO basically turned into PWI at the end of its run.
it was your most controversial, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, dude, I remember posting like a 9/11 post of how Muhammad Hassan did 9/11. Dude, that shit was so funny at the time because it was the most random thing ever, bro. And then I remember Kurt and Muhammad Hassan were like having a feud, and then Kurt Hawkins had his segment on Raw where he basically connected all the plots for Muhammad Hassan doing 9/11. It was just shit like that. It was just like so fucking random, bro. But yeah,
Oh my
shout out,
god.
shout
I
out
don't remember
PWI,
the
shout out
faction
PWI.
name. Oh, it was the regime.
Regime. Was it?
Yes.
That does sound familiar.
Dude, I just would
Look what
remember
I
this
just.
shit, but I don't. That's crazy.
Well, I looked. Look at what I sent you on Instagram.
Oh yeah, it
It was the
was the
regime.
regime. Destroy
that
Matthew
was the
Riddle.
most random. That was the
Yo,
most
destroy.
random.
What the hell? That's a nice edit too. What the hell? Um, the regime destroy Matthew Riddle for a better America.
That was the most like random assortment of people too.
Alright. Yo, I was thinking about having like Seth turn into a terrorist also, and then we would kick out Corbin, because Seth kind of has like that long hair and that beard, so he kind of looks Arab. I was thinking about having Seth turn into a terrorist. And then I think they would kick out Corbin, and then they would like do something together. But yeah, that storyline was gonna go very deep. Like, you guys don't understand. That was just the starting. Like, I have so many sick ideas that I was gonna do with that storyline. But yeah, we ended up not seeing it.
What was I have a question. What was
Yeah.
the original UWO Mania 3 main event going to be if Kurt never won the Rumble?
Repeat that again.
If Kurt had never won the Rumble, what would you have done for the main event of Mania 3?
I think I would have pushed Drew because what happened is um during the Rumble time I signed Drew to a big contract. And then I think I was gonna push him for the Mania kind of build. But the thing is, here's the thing about voting leagues, and I always say this about UWO, we were a voting league, but we put storyline first. So I'm not
Hmm.
gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you guys that I didn't pull some strings sometimes to kind of like push towards a specific storyline. But we were a voting league at the end of the day, and you guys know a lot of like the voting matches are random. So it was specific man wins. We this happens a lot. Usually I kind of would like root for a certain person, and then the other person would end up winning. And what would happen is usually we would kind of like change up the storylines. So if Kurt Hawkins didn't win the Rumble, dude, that's a very interesting question. I don't know, man. I guess maybe Roddy would have won, and it would have been a very random Mania main event. But um, yeah, I usually it would depend on like I guess the storylines at that time. Brock was getting pushed that time. We had Riddle. Riddle was kind of coming up. But yeah, Drew was kind of like that person that I was gonna push heavy, and you saw it because towards the end of UWO, he got that major push, which was a lot of people say it was the most toxic era of UWO.
Yeah.
What is a lesson that you learned from when you ran a league?
One lesson I definitely learned is not to take things so serious. I think, yeah, I would definitely. I took a lot of things seriously at that time. Um, Knowing that in the end, none of it mattered. Um, I mean, look at Will and I. You know, if we didn't waste so much time in UWO and AWO, who knows what we would have been doing? Maybe for the better or worse, right? But at the end of the day, that's the past, right?
Yeah.
It already happened. You can't change the past. But you know, if I were to go back and just kind of like remind myself, like, you know, a lesson that I definitely learned is just like, don't take like don't take that shit serious. Like, um, just have fun. You know, I'm not gonna lie and just you know, I lost a couple of I think I lost a lot of my hair because of UWL. So you know, it took a lot of stress as well. You know, editing all the time was just like imagine you having a show at like 8 o'clock and you just had a and you weren't finished. You know, that happened a lot. I would like rush my freaking edits. It was like
Bro,
crazy. It was insane.
you know how many times I had to push shows back and have like
Yeah,
6 hour
bro.
shows?
Those times were the worst, man. Like sometimes I would post shows and I didn't even have all the match cards ready. Like that's how sick
Exactly.
it was.
I'd be editing and writing in between um
Yeah.
posting, and
So
I'd over here have to be BSing my audience.
yeah. And it's like, you know, I think it was a lot of our ego as well. Like we wanted to post, um, just in
But we
case,
weren't
like, you know,
ready.
we don't want to end up like falling off or anything because like that should happen a lot. That's what I noticed a lot. Like if you end up missing shows and stuff, people get disinterested. I think that kind of like connects to like real life as well. You know, with WWE. Imagine if WWE missed like 2 weeks of shows, like people would just like fall off. And I think that I just kind of had that mentality. Always keep people on their feet. You know, people's attention spans are just not as good anymore. People just constantly want something, something, something. So
Keep them engaged, captivating.
yeah, you always gotta just be on your game as well. Um, but yeah, I think you know at the end of the day, you know, um, I wish I had more fun during that time. Maybe I wouldn't be as you know have like such a negative thought about it.
Yeah. I wish I had um been in the moment more and appreciated some things. I felt like, I mean, as a league owner, you're always looking forward. How do I set this next story up? Um, how do I get this person in position? How do I get this storyline set up? How do I angle this? How do I, all these different things. That sometimes you forgot to appreciate what you're in the moment and what you're dealing with. And a lot of the times, my most successful stories, um, I didn't realize it till after the fact because I had been spending so much time trying to set things up that when it finally succeeded, I didn't appreciate it in the moment till it was over and somebody was like, "Damn, that was really good." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you're right, it was." And then it kind of took away some of the pride I had because I didn't really get it in the moment. So probably living in the moment is something I regret. And like Adam said, not. I think I took it a bit too serious, even though I always pride myself on running it like a business.
So before we move on to our final topic, is there anything else you'd like to mention about your league before we move on to that topic?
No, I think we covered a lot of it. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of it.
I agree.
And to finish it off, I want to discuss something that is very important to all of us: mental health. So, is there anything you guys would want to say about your mental health, or any advice you want to give to people that might actually help them? Because mental health is a serious problem, and I want people to make sure that they know that they are never alone in this fight.
So I brought up a lot. I brought this topic up a lot during our last podcast, Sammy. Um, and I think that, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that episode was like your most watched or second most watched. Yeah, so it was great.
I don't know if Adam had finished his thought. He went back on mute.
Sorry about that, guys. Somebody came in, but yeah, back to what I was saying. So I brought up a lot. Yeah, I brought that topic up a lot last time. I think it's very important. Um, I obviously am much older. Well, not that old. That old compared to you guys. Maybe 2 3 years. Um, and I just I love to just share my knowledge and my thoughts about what I've been going through and shit like that. I've been through a lot of dark phases in my life, but um, I think what I want to say is that obviously, like, mental health is a very real thing. Um, I think if you're ever going through like a dark period, and this might sound very like cliche, might sound very old and dull, but there's always gonna be a time period where you feel better. And it's like almost guaranteed. Like the way our bodies work and our minds work is that we always adapt to things. So you're never going to always be in that dark period. There's always gonna be times where you just come out of it. But once you come out of it, you gotta realize that you got to stay in that position, so you end up having like a lot of people have like phases of like rots and stuff, or a lot of like phases of like dark periods. You got to make sure to come out of that before it sucks you in. So yeah, anyone that's like for anyone that's like watching this podcast, and especially a lot of the IGWC people, and I know I keep saying that a lot of IGWC people, let's be honest, I would say 95% of them are depressed. Like, I'm genuinely, I don't want to be ignorant, but I would definitely say if I hit all of them up and talked about their life a lot. I think a lot of like 95% of them would say they're depressed. Um, yeah, if you're ever going through like a dark period in life, just like always remember, um, things things are gonna get better. It sounds very cliche, but it's true. Um, and I think life choices as well is a very important thing. I think if you just put your phone away for one day, went outside, enjoyed nature, talked to people, I guarantee you, I would put so much money on it that you will feel better. You will feel 10 times better. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah. First and foremost, to anybody who's going through dark times, to anybody who's not feeling it themselves, the first thing that's important to understand is that you're loved. Um, no matter how lonely or no matter how dark you're feeling, there is somebody out there who has love for you and who is willing to help you. So it's important to seek out that help. Nobody's a mind reader, um, and being able to get help is so important because that's the first step. And as Adam said, it does get better. Um, and just nothing is too big to overcome. There's no one particular mistake or one particular feeling that's too big to overcome. Um, so getting help and realizing that you're loved, I think is extremely important. Um, but finding somebody to talk to, finding somebody to just vent and let it go to is extremely important because I think a lot of times we hold things in. We try to keep pushing and try to hold things in and not talk about it so we can seem strong and so we can just kind of keep it moving. But we feel better psychologically when we get things off our chest. Um, so I keep saying it, but seeking help I think is so important. Just knowing that you're loved.
As of recording this episode and the audio for it, the video is still the second most viewed Sami Owens Show episode at 51, while the first one has 56 views. So it's actually getting pretty close.
I guarantee you, this episode specifically is gonna beat those. I think this is gonna be number one.
You know, I had this entire speech memorized from when I filmed this episode, but I feel like I need to bring this up. Like, I had to delay this episode for a second time because of my mental health, and, like, the past week was, like, really tough for me, and I was in a really, really dark place for a couple days. But now I am feeling better than I have felt in quite a while. I had Adam to talk to, I had coworkers to talk to, I have my mom to talk to. Like, it doesn't matter if you think you don't have anyone to talk to, you can always talk to your boss, your friends, your family, your coworkers, a therapist, anyone. You can even message me over on Instagram. Like, I will be there to listen if you ever need anyone to just be a good ear, because I appreciate every single one of you.
Agreed.
W response, and I really hope this might sound like very corny to certain people, but I really hope we can reach out and help at least one person. If we can help out one person from what we were just talking about in the last 5 minutes, I feel happy with that 100%. A lot of people like that's one thing I noticed since the pandemic. Like a lot of people, so many people are dealing with like mental health issues, and I live in New York City. Like, dude, I don't think I've ever seen New York City like this crazy. Like, I think everyone's just losing their mind, and I think social media plays a lot into that, dude. Like, I would say social media impacts like people a lot. Like the influence and the impact by like specific could be like from a person, it could be from a YouTube channel, from gaming, from all this shit. Plays a lot, dude. And this is for like people that actually want to put in work. If you guys really want to like improve your mental health, I would look into something called a dopamine detox. Um, And this is like for somebody like people that actually want to like looking into like improving their mental health a lot. Look into dopamine detox and really put in the work and see how you feel after that. I guarantee you that will change your life because it changed mine. Um, so yeah, I think that's just like I do appreciate everybody in this group call like talking about it because I think it's very important. And you know, as somebody that is very controversial as well, somebody like Andrew Tate. Like I love Andrew Tate. I think a lot of people know I love Andrew Tate. But you know, some of the things that like that he says like about mental health, like saying depression is real. Like I think I do disagree with him on that. I think it is very much real, but I think majority of teenagers that say they have depression, I think that's fake. I think it's fixable. I think if they just fixed their life, they went to the gym, they went outside, I guarantee you they wouldn't be depressed anymore. And I think that's specifically like what Andrew Tate talks about. But there's obviously like real clinical depression, like people that deal with like real brain injuries, they're clinically depressed. Like that's a legitimate thing. So you can't just sit here and say like depression is fake when it's not.
So before we end this episode, is there anything else you would like to discuss? It could be anything from a league or anything about mental health.
Thank you guys for letting me on. Been a pleasure to be able to chop it up with you guys, catch up a little bit. And yeah, to whoever's still in the IGWC, go explore new things. Why not? What's stopping you from exploring new things? The world's not shut down anymore. Um, Everything is at your disposal. The world is at your hand. Go out and live your life.
One last thing I want to say. Um, I think this is gonna be like the most important podcast like we ever do. And I do also, in a way, want this to just be a closure of UWO, of IGWC in my life. I think this is like the final time I'm ever gonna just talk about it in general. Kind of just wanted to be like a closing period. Um, and I just want to say, you know, I know we've lost our reach a lot, but there are still so many like UWO and AWO loyals that still watch us and still listen. Obviously, um, I hope like we were able to like help you some way, shape, or form. I think that that's like the most important thing that we can take away from all this. So again, I appreciate you, Will. I appreciate you, Sammy. This was great. Um, you guys are always gonna be like my friends forever. I feel like this is just a dynamic that's always gonna exist. So yeah, for sure. I appreciate you guys a lot.
Yes, sir.
I had a great time filming this episode. I feel like we got a lot covered during this hour and a half we had together. Now, I usually like to end off the show by having you guys promote whatever you want. So, if you have anything you would like to promote, just feel free and go for it. And I will have all of those links down in the description below. So please go check them out.
Honestly,
No,
I'm
y'all
off.
know
I'm pretty much off all social medias. I think I'm also just gonna get off the UWO page soon as well. I think I usually just come back here and there to just chat with my friends, but I'll be off of that. If anybody does want to keep up with me though, hit me up. Ask for a number. Um, I'll definitely text you. But I'm pretty much like off of social media for now.
At least keep it up until after this episode goes up.
No, yeah, for sure. No, for sure. I will. I'll probably stay for like a week or two.
Yeah, y'all know where to find me at Almighty underscore Wrestling League on Instagram.
Like I mentioned before, the links will be down in the description below. But I really had a blast filming this episode, and I am so excited for when this goes up just to see so many people from the community interact with it.
Likewise, man. Likewise.
Likewise, of course.
But thank you all so much for watching the Sami Owens Show. If you want to be a guest in the future, please comment down below or message me over on Instagram. And I will catch you in the next episode.